The UNSC Army is the premier terrestrial armed service branch within United Nations Space Command. Its mission, distinct from that of the UNSC Marine Corps, is to provide prepared, swift, and sustained planetary dominance as part of the joint force of all United Earth government military services. It is an integral element within this greater structure, embodying the strength and resilience necessary to not only defend, but advance the collective interests of humanity in an ever-changing and challenging galaxy. Though not officially founded until after the conflict, the Army considers its origins to lie in the Interplanetary War, the devastating conflict fought across the solar system between 2164 and 2170. In the Rainforest, Argyre Planitia, and Jovian campaigns, amongst others, the United Nations, predecessor to the UEG, was forced to unify the military structures of its constituent nations. Its success in this area would provide the groundwork for the defeat of the Koslevik and Friedan ideological movements, the establishment of United Nations Space Command, and the future of humanity across the Orion Spur. By the latter years of the immense colonization effort, known to history as the Domus Diaspora, the UNSC Army, now a formal branch of the United Earth government, found a natural role in garrisoning the frontier and protecting colonies and outposts from whatever dangers the galaxy might present. Its operations in this era were relatively small-scale, limited brushfire wars on Earth from lingering Koslevik or Neo-Friedanist movements, or civil and military infrastructure projects on developing colonies. In 2494, the rapid escalation of resentment in the outer colonies towards the UEG and the extensive insurrection that developed from it redirected the UNSC Army from a loose coalition of garrison units to its historical role as a highly trained, well-equipped, and motivated fighting force. The immense military buildup, a reaction to the insurrectionist threat, expanded the capabilities of the force and would ultimately prove essential in the far larger conflict that followed. The Army's service in the Human Covenant War between 2525 and 2552 was largely overshadowed in the public consciousness by the more dramatic actions of the UNSC Navy and Marine Corps. The nature of fighting, the Covenant's genocidal tactics, and the severe technological disparity that human forces were forced to operate within meant that the Army achieved very few major victories across the entirety of the war. Its successes, though hardly rare, were ultimately short-lived, quickly reversed, or of limited strategic value. Though it fought with immense distinction on Harvest, Reach, Earth, and hundreds of other worlds, it was only after the conflict had ended that the enormous contributions made by the Army were recognized by the UNSC. For 30 years, it had fought against a vastly superior foe, delayed their advance across worlds vital to the UNSC war effort, and provided the time essential for greater successes elsewhere. In the post-war era, the UNSC Army has seen a slight pivot back to its more limited role as garrison forces. Its units have been redeployed across both worlds devastated by the war and the first generation of new peacetime colonies. Continued instability across Covenant successor states has prevented any kind of total demobilization, however. Many of its larger formations have been reinforced, while the immense institutional knowledge acquired over the conflict have drastically improved its efficiency and lethality. It retains in the modern era the ability to rapidly expand its operating forces as the developing political system demands. Though the environments in which it has operated have undergone significant changes, its core mission remains the same, the defense of Earth and its colonies. Yet its ancillary functions continue to expand with the development of interstellar civilization. The UNSC Army is increasingly tasked with providing engineering and logistical services in the development of civil and military infrastructure. It helps train the civil defense units integral to the coherency of UNSC space in everything from leadership and management, technical skills, humanitarian assistance, and peacekeeping or stability operations. And it continues to jointly develop the doctrine, procedures, and equipment necessary for the continued fulfillment of its mission. In accordance with the combined arms doctrines favored by UNSC leadership, the Army maintains a close relationship with its sister services. Ground operations undertaken alongside marine assets are coordinated within Unified Ground Command to ensure synchronicity in military operations across terrestrial battlefields. The Army and Air Force, meanwhile, by virtue of being the two services expected to act without major, organic, spaceborne elements, are also closely integrated. Their major role as garrison forces across UNSC worlds has sometimes led the Army to be described purely as a defensive force, but it has maintained the ability to conduct large-scale operations on foreign battlefields, exploiting and expanding beachheads established by the UNSC Navy and Marine Corps. Divisions consisting of between 10,000 and 15,000 soldiers are the building blocks of the force, divided between armoured, airborne, infantry, and other such units. Special Operations Forces are also seen as pivotal to the success of the branch. Ranger units in particular are a highly specialized light infantry unit, famed across the UNSC for their expertise in special reconnaissance operations. Ranger units are often seen as a potential path for acceptance in the Spartan 4 program. Additionally, the UNSC Army operates a limited maritime force, or wet navy, on worlds dominated by oceans or similar features. Humanity exists in a galaxy as mysterious, complicated, and dangerous as any other time in its history. In this environment, the necessity of the UNSC Army is without question. No other force in no other time has ever been asked to give so much, and given it so readily. For 30 years, they fought the battles where the results were inevitable, but surrender unthinkable. Their success, achieved at unimaginable cost, and only recently recognized, has cemented their place at the front of every advance, and the heart of every defense. None alive today can judge what ancient threats or new terrors might threaten the survival of the human race. But it will forever remain an absolute certainty that whatever might emerge from the dark will be met by the guns, tanks, aircraft, and warships of the UNSC Army.
The Templin Institute investigates the nations, factions, and organizations of alternate worlds. If you've enjoyed this video and would like to join the Templin Institute, consider pledging to our Patreon page. Along with increased security access, you'll be able to vote in polls to determine future topics, get custom wallpaper every week, and receive some other exclusive rewards.